The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by PGC. PGC are the longest serving employer of record in North America and can compliantly engage contractors across both the US and Canada on behalf of staffing and recruitment businesses. Our turnkey solution offers a unique access point to the largest staffing market in the world. To find out more, visit us at pgcgroup.com.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliott Manning, Managing Director of Cayman Recruitment, UK, US, and recently South Africa, actually. I am in Charlotte. It's, I would say sunny Charlotte, but it's horrible here and cold, like it is probably back home. I've got a special guest with me who hasn't been on this for over a year now, so it'd be nice to catch up, talk all things USA, who knows the market more than anybody. I'll let you introduce yourself.
No pressure. Love it. I can't believe it's been over a year since we last did this, but yeah, thank you for having me on again. I'm Maria Drye, Director of US Expansion at PGC, the proud sponsors of the Search Podcast as well. So work closely with Cayman and iGuides with a lot of clients that are exploring and scaling the US.
Yeah, I mean, look, this was all an idea for me. You know, this season was all about, you know, getting the US information out there, the market. It made sense to have a partnership with you guys who do more in it than anybody else and know it more than anyone else. And you know, we've been doing episode after episode after episode, learning a lot about what's been going on. But the funny thing is, like, the whole year itself, 2023, it's been such a everything's changed so much from one extreme to another, or not. What's your take on the year now that we're at the end of it? And you know, have you seen a big, positive turn towards the end of the year, or change where you were? What did you see?
I mean, it's obviously been a tough year. There's no denying that. So I think where people have always said, go to the US, it's easy. You're going to get, your average biller doing $500,000. I think this year it's definitely taken a different turn and it has been much harder. You've definitely got to graft a bit more for your BD. In terms of kind of the actual growth of the revenue being generated in the US, if you were to look year on year at the numbers, 2023 is going to actually end up being a slight decline from what we finished last year at. The main driver for that, though, is really the healthcare sector, because we had such massive booms kind of post-COVID with, 2020 to 2021 was 34%, then to 2022 was 20% growth. Traveling nurses have massively pulled down the growth in the US. But I would say it's been a tougher year. But in many ways, it's allowed businesses to say, okay, let's take stock. What can we do? How can we kind of strategize for markets, locations we want to go next? And make sure that they're entering next year with the foundations in play. I know when we caught up earlier, we were saying sometimes the US is so big, it's very easy to get distracted and you think we're going to target Florida, and then jobs start coming from New York and Austin, and it's very easy to start looking at where the jobs are coming and not staying very kind of focused on your patch, which ultimately you're only going to make your job harder for you if you start thinning out where you're going and locating.
We've experienced that this year, that, as a rec to rec, the amount of firms that have, moved, opened, closed, it's been crazy. But one thing that, Sasan, we've established is that to spread yourself across the states is just too much. It's impossible. It's just too much going on. And when you pulled from one pillar to another, it's just, it's hard to manage. But I was just saying to you before we jumped on here that, one thing that we've identified this year and seeing coming into 2024, that everyone wants to move more into the contractor market. And the US contractor space has never really been a big thing. But I feel like a lot of firms have suffered financially this year that are very perm focused, reliant on those perm fees, that they are trying to get a bit more of a sustainable structure, hence the contract piece. Is that what you've seen as well?
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll speak to clients that say, look, we're perm only, we're going to just go perm, and I'll say, that's fine. I'll give you as much advice and insight as possible. But ultimately, we know right now in America, you've got 1 in 5 workers are contract. By 2027, that's going to be just over half the workforce will sit in a contract, freelance, kind of temporary position. And I think also for like end clients, this year, last year, you've got these massive tech firms that have been splashed all over the news for their mass layoffs. You know, they've not had a great kind of rap when it's come to the PR. So you see next year, 78% of clients that were interviewed by Robert Half said, we're going to focus on kind of contract first. And I think because this market at the moment is very kind of candidate rich, end clients can be slightly more, you know, strategic with who they pick, how they bring them on. We're seeing a lot more contract to hire roles as well. So I think even if you're thinking we're just going to do perm because you can get revenue quickly and you can bill quicker in your bank, like contract is becoming more and more kind of a focus area. So I think it's really key that you're not only educating your consultants, but also your end clients, because we've also seen that as a bit of a difference from maybe UK operating recruitment businesses in US. You know, a UK end client would assume you can do contract, whereas in the US, you actually need to educate your end client a bit more to say, we've got a contract facility capability solution and a compliant one. We can fill these jobs for you as an interim, long-term, you know, it's a slightly different sell, an education point of view, I think.
The thing is that I don't know why it wasn't such a big thing in the first place and why people weren't doing it enough. And I think it was just a case of, oh, we're just creating more work for ourselves to have to sell a solution. But in essence, like the value of that long term is far greater, which now people are starting to see. Have you seen just moving on to a different aspect of this, have you seen more firms slow down with their growth in the US on their hiring, or firms setting up in the States? You know, one thing I have noticed is that more people are looking to set up in the States with US citizens rather than going through the E2 visa route in the UK, which not only is expensive, takes a long time, and then they're now kind of accepted that they're not trying to run before they can walk just because they've hired a US citizen.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of clients incubate their teams in the UK and then have such great success in the US. They're like, hang on a minute, as soon as we've seen some US salaries, we think, can we keep some of the UK team in the UK but operating in the US? So just like you say, they say, we'll just hire some US citizens, great BD consultants, and keep some delivery teams in the UK. Because I think also, you know, it's no surprise that UK talent is very good recruitment talent. You know, what you get for a graduate or a couple of years experience in the UK versus a US recruiter that's been in the market for 2 years. Salaries are very different, competency 360, 180, very different models. So I've seen more and more businesses incubate teams in the UK, be able to bill and generate high numbers of revenue, and then actually just get some BD, strong salespeople on the ground in the US whilst keeping teams in the UK. Or similar to what Cayman have done, like go where the talent is. You don't need to be operating with a full team in New York, you know, costing high numbers of taxes, operational costs, huge salaries now in New York. I think the minimum salary requirements to be exempt from overtime have gone up even more for next year. So people might just have, you know, a central location and then have some BD consultants or recruitment consultants in different states operate East Coast, West Coast, Central. A lot more agile, I think people have been.
Do you think that like it's going to change in any way in terms of, you know, how people are going to start utilizing that British exposure first of all before they kind of do the US side of it? Or do you think it's going to, do you see any changes due to happen?
In terms of UK recruitment consultants, using the fact they are a UK recruitment consultant. So I'll always say to clients, like, don't be shy. Like they'll always say, what shall I say if they say on the phone, where am I based? What am I doing? Like, I think, you know, we should be proud that we come from a UK recruitment background. You know, we're a huge market. In many ways, we're actually more advanced in the UK recruitment space than some US recruitment spaces, like the technology, the processes, etc. What I will always say is don't be shy to sell yourself to US clients. I think Americans and whether anyone watching this has hired internally for their talent, and Elliott, you'll speak with US consultants all the time, they're very good at selling themselves. So they're not shy to say, I've got 15 years, dedicated experience within this sector, working for these types of end clients. So I would say don't be shy to say you're operating from the UK, but it's also really important to show that you've got intent in the US market. Don't say, oh, I work with your sister company over here, so I just thought I'd see if I can help. Like, we see our clients get a lot stickier and have a lot more success early on if they've really shown their intent in the US market. Like, I am building this because I have a proven track record in this. So the little things that they can change to show that they are serious about the US market, and they're not just doing it as I'm going to dip my toe in the water to see if I can get some big fees.
What are your thoughts in terms of, you've gone over to Australia, you guys now, and it's kind of been a big thing. Do you see like a lot more firms coming over to the US from Oz, APAC, UAE? Is that something you're seeing a little bit more of a development?
Yeah, I think we've just seen, and we've been really lucky at PGC, like the past 23 years, we in the UK market have become synonymous, hopefully. If people think about US expansion, they think, go and speak to PGC, or have you spoken with PGC? And we've helped a number of businesses, your S3s, your Rocksite, Austin Flex, all of those enter the US market. What we have started to look at is what other locations globally have got strong recruitment talent that could seize the opportunities in the US. So some people have said, oh, are you expanding into Australia? Like, we're not doing the service to, are you wanting to expand into Australia? What we're doing is helping Australian businesses come into the US. The US is 34% global market share. It's more than 4 times what the UK has. I mean, nearly 10 times what Australia has as a market. So there's so much opportunity to go after. I'd also say anyone watching this that thinks, am I too late? Have I missed the boat? Like,
no way.
There's so much to go after, and being niche and specialist.
There's actually now more opportunity in the US than ever before, because unfortunately a lot of firms have suffered this year and struggled to the point where they've left an open market gap for other firms to come in and take over. And the amount of firms that are growing within that energy market, the life sciences space, there's so much there to be done.
Engineering.
It's just kind of like got to a point where I feel like it's only just starting a little bit, if that makes sense. It's not even like really begun, and the opportunity, as I mentioned before, on the contractor side has become far greater than anywhere else. And it never made sense why it never did anyway, but it's it's now much more of a bigger opportunity. What's the plans for the business moving into the new year then?
So we are just growth. We very excitingly are going to be launching a recruitment academy. So a lot of our clients that have entered the US, they've got their solution set up, they've got talent. A lot of their consultants are actually like, I don't know the differences, I don't know the state-by-state laws. So we are launching a 6-module recruitment academy, which will basically give consultants the opportunity to do the academy, learn how to win business, maximize margins, screening candidates, what you need to know, what you don't need to know. So hopefully we're going to basically add rocket fuel to any US companies that are going to be spearheading contract, perm, anything. So I think, again, to my point, the US market isn't easy, so don't be complacent. Like, you've got to consistently be kind of building your market, your brand in the market, your niche, your value proposition, but also you've got to know the key differences in the US from the UK. You can't be a good UK recruiter and think you're automatically going to be amazing in the US. There's laws around salary transparency, salary histories, that it's really key that you need to know, so you're viewed as an expert when speaking to clients, candidates. So too many times we've seen firms go to set up over there not having any infrastructure, no foundation, trying to hire, no one will work for you. Unfortunately, they won't entertain it. You don't even have a contract of employment to show them. No idea on the health benefits, which is the first question that most of them ask. If you haven't got any indication of what that looks like, then don't bother doing anything yet. Speak to, the team at PGC, speak to me.
and just try and get yourself in a position where you're not trying to rush it, and do it the right way, because you know you can mess up relationships, which are a key
100%.
part of the US. But look, you know, guys and girls, if you are looking to set up in the US, and I always will recommend PGC, if you have an employer over there that you think could be great for your business that are American, if you find that you want to start looking at the contractor out in the US, speak to these guys. You know, they're fantastic, and always get the job done. But it's been a pleasure speaking with you, pleasure catching up.
Yes.
Nice to touch base on a lot of this. We did get carried away before the podcast was recorded talking about all this. I was like, we should have just recorded that. But no, look, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to seeing what you guys bring to the table for 2024. And again, I'll be making sure that everyone goes to you for everything they need in the States.
Thank you. And likewise, love what you guys do. Love to be partnered with you, and really excited for what 2024 has in store.
Thank you very much. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Elliot.